Rwandan opposition leader Victoire Ingabire has questioned her country's suitability to host the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM, citing human rights abuses. More than 5,000 delegates from 54 members, most of which are former British colonies, are currently in Rwanda's capital, Kigali. The summit has been postponed twice because of the coronavirus pandemic.
Rwandan opposition figure Ingabire says the United Kingdom should help Rwanda live by the Commonwealth's values such as democracy, human rights and gender equality. She says nothing has changed in the East African nation after she returned from exile in the Netherlands to contest the presidential election in 2010. Ingabire has called on Commonwealth leaders to visit the country's prisons to see what she claims are human rights violations. Ingabire was among thousands freed in a presidential pardon in 2018. She was serving a 15-year sentence after she was accused of conspiring to form an armed group during the country's genocide.
Well, we're now joined by Rwandan politician Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza, who's the chairperson of a new political party, the Development and Liberty for All. She joins us now via Zoom from Kigali in Rwanda. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. A very good evening to you. You look like you're muted. Can you press the unmute button?
One moment.
There we go. We can hear you now. Great. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time.
Okay, thank you too for having me.
Well, all right. I saw that you wrote an article not so long ago questioning Rwanda's ability to host a Commonwealth Heads of State and Government gathering such as the one taking place now. Take us through what your concerns are.
Yes, as you know, Rwanda joined the Commonwealth in 2009. And in this time, the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative has indicated that Rwanda state of governance and the human rights in Rwanda did not satisfy Commonwealth standards, and his recommendation was that Rwanda should not be admitted in the Commonwealth. Until today, the Rwanda government is yet to learn and practice the core value of Commonwealth. For example, the Rwanda Constitution provides separation of power to guarantee the rule of law, but the power is in the hands of the executive. The justice is not independent. It is used to slow down the process of democracy. Today, independent journalists, human rights defenders, and opposition members are facing reprisals, death of enforced disappearance, and the offense is that we criticize the policy of the government. If I give an only example, today, 9 members of my political party are in prison, only because they read a book. The name of the book is the Revolution, the Blueprint of Revolution. And they discussed it among them, only it was not public, it was only between them when they discussed about the content of this book in relation to the situation in our country. They were arrested last year in October, on a day before the celebration of Ingabire Day. Ingabire Day is this is the day I was arrested in 2010, which my supporters have been regularly celebrating for over a decade. And the same day, a journalist, independent journalist who has to organize the debate, who has planned to organize the debate on his channel YouTube, he was also arrested. All of them are accused of joining criminal association, causing uprising among the population, and spreading false information with intent to cause a hostile international opinion against the Rwanda government. This is why I say it was not time for Rwanda to host the meeting such as CHOGM in Rwanda.
Ms. Ingabire, you've listed a whole array of issues, and I'm just wondering how us from the outside looking in reconcile the view that is seen around the world about a country that's progressed tremendously since the genocide, a country where a president is incredibly popular to get 99% of the vote, and all of this against what you're telling us. I just wonder, is the world being fooled? Are we not able to see what's going on inside the country? Why such a difference?
You know, everybody knows that the government of Rwanda use mere public relations for his image. And many people praise Rwanda for its achievement. I agree with that person what they say, because there are some achievement in the development. But I am convinced that we cannot have a sustainable development without democracy and the respect of human rights. This is why I say, because people look at only to the development, to the achievement, but also the development, we have to see that it is only in the Kigali, the capital, and also in the tourist region. But if you go in the rural areas, you can see that the majority of Rwandans live in abject poverty. This, for me, the development is for the people. It is not to have a clean street and a beautiful building in the capital and talk about the development. Rwanda has a long way to go to achieve really the development. Rwanda has a long way to go to be a democratic country and the country rule of law. This is why I say people talk only about what the natives they see in Kigali, but they don't not see the poverty of the countries, of the population in Rwanda.
Your personal journey has been a difficult one. 8 years in prison. Would you say that this was more political than the charges that were proffered against you, which were terrorism?
Yes, I was arrested. I spent 16 years in exile. I was in Netherlands. In 2010, I come back in Rwanda to participate in the presidential election, and I was sentenced. I was arrested and sentenced to 80 years in prison by the High Court of Rwanda in a politically motivated judicial proceeding. And I appealed to the Supreme Court of Rwanda, and my sentence was increased to 15 years. And I took my case to the African Court of Human and People's Rights. And the court cleared me of any offense and ruled that Rwanda violated my right to freedom of opinion and expression, as well as the right to an adequate defense. This, when I was in prison, I spent, of course, I did not spend all 15 years in prison. I spent only 8 years in prison, and which in 5 I spent in a solitary confinement. And I was released in September 2018 by the presidential pardon. And this pardon is with a condition. I cannot leave the country until today. When I come back in Rwanda, my husband and our children, we have 3 children, were staying in the Netherlands. They're still there, and I cannot visit them. And when I was released 3 times. I asked the authorization to visit my family, but the government did not respond to my request. Yes, until today, I cannot leave my country.
All right,
and it is not only visit my family, I can't completely need to leave my country.
So you're not on probation, you've been pardoned, so you're a free person, but you're not free to travel.
Yes, you are right. I'm not to be free to travel, but it is not only that. For example, today, I cannot exercise my freedom of assembly or association because today the authority of Rwanda refused me to meet the member of my political party. This means that I cannot organize the first meeting with my supporter, which is needed to register a political party. I have the party, I founded this party, DARFA, in 2019, but until today is still unregistered political party.
The authorities will say the fact that you're able to speak to me now, speak freely about what's on your mind, suggests that you have freedoms of expression. Yes,
I know. I know that today they say Ingabire can talk with the media when she is free, Rwanda is free, but that is not true. Of course, I recognize that the last time the government does not summon me when I speak, because, for example, a few months ago, when I talked with media, the government always summoned me. But today, I can talk with you. I can publish my opinion in the international media, but that does not mean that Rwanda is free, that I have the freedom of expression. I do it, but for example, I give the example of the member of my political party who are in a prison, arrested only because they read a book and they discuss among them. It was not publicly. This shows that we have a long way to go. If I can now talk with you, but that does not mean that Rwanda is in a free country where everybody has a freedom of expression. We have a long way to go.
The president won 98.9% of the vote. Are you telling me that a good number of people in Rwanda are not represented by that vote?
No, because we don't have the election are not free in Rwanda. That is the open secret. The election is not open. Why? Because if it is time for election or serious contenders to the candidate of the ruling party until today is the honorary President Paul Kagame, who is the candidate of the ruling party for all years. If there is a serious candidate, they manage to move the person away. For example, I was arrested in 2010 when I wanted to participate in the election. In 2017, Diane Rwigara was also arrested when she wanted to present herself. And in 2003, also Dr. Niyitegeka was arrested. So if they see that if the ruling party see that there is a serious candidate, they manage to accuse. They find every time the accusation against a serious candidate, against a candidate of the ruling party, who is Paul Kagame.
Another topical issue recently is this partnership between the government of Rwanda and the United Kingdom to receive asylum seekers that first arrive in the United Kingdom, and that they are now going to be transported to Rwanda. What are your thoughts on this partnership between the Rwanda and the United Kingdom?
I was surprised to see that the British government, a country that is known to be a democratic country, wants to violate the international convention relative to status of refugees. Because in this convention, the core principle of this convention is that no refugees or asylum seekers has to be sent in the country where his liberty should be treated. And Rwanda, as a country that has a long way to go to achieve the democracy, I think it is not the right place to send the refugees or asylum seekers who were persecuted in their country. That's first. Secondly, UK is a rich country and Rwanda is a poor country. How a rich country can send the refugees or asylum seekers in the poor countries? Because we don't have the capacity to receive these refugees. I know that the Rwanda government promised that it will offer jobs to these refugees, but I say this is a lie, because we have thousands youth who are jobless. How Rwanda, who cannot find the job for their own people, will find jobs for these refugees? Rwanda is welcoming, but we are a poor country. The authority of Rwanda has to recognize the capacity we have. We need first to resolve the problem of our population. Rwanda self-produces refugees. We have so many refugees outside, more than 300,000 refugees. If you have refugees outside, economic refugees or political refugees, how you can say that you can resolve the problem of the refugees from other countries? Second, the refugees in the UK, what they need, what they are looking for is a better life. But Rwanda cannot give this better life to these refugees because it is a poor country. It is a developing country. I think it is better that the UK try to find the solution on these refugees or asylum seekers with the other European countries. This is also in the law, because there's the law that is stipulated that if refugees come in the country, the first country where they are arrived, it is that country who has to treat the demand for asylum seeker. This means if the UK says that they are refugees traveling from France, they have to resolve this problem with France or with the other European countries. But they don't have to send these refugees to a poor country and no democratic country like Rwanda, because these refugees or asylum seekers will not have a future in Rwanda.
Ms. Ingabire Umuhoza, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for giving us your time this evening and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too.
Good night. All right, that's Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza, who's a politician, opposition politician in Rwanda, sharing her thoughts and her concerns about human rights, democracy, and saying that Rwanda is not in a position to be receiving asylum seekers from the United Kingdom under this new partnership that's been agreed. I mean, Rwanda has been capacitated by the British government through funding, but it still remains a controversial issue, and this is all happening, of course, with the CHOGAM meeting taking place as a backdrop. Stay with us, we'll be back after this and we'll explore again this controversial reversal of Roe versus Wade. 49 years later, abortion is now illegal once again, and it's up to the states, local states, to decide what they will do for themselves.